I hear yap, 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 yap. Ain't talking about nothing, right? Watch this. We gon' bring that pressure.
Just a little FYI, FYF 20K sub 6 months, what's next? They been hating at first, now they calling us the best. Hit up YouTube, tell them cut the check. Just a FYI, FYF 20K sub 6 months, what's next? Woo, fuck your feelings, we all know who the real is. I be getting to it, ain't wasting no time. Walking straight in, we ain't waiting in line. Fuck your feelings, you don't care about mine. You a YouTube gangster, don't be yelling out slime. Or you talking LB, talking Ticket TV. Ain't nobody watching them, all the viewers be sleep. 5 years in, all your subs is your friends. Ticket TV, watch the cars again. Just a little FYI, FYF 20K sub 6 months, what's next? They been hating at first, now they calling us the best. Hit up YouTube, tell them cut the check. Just a FYI, FYF 20K sub 6 months, what's next?
It's FYF Sportsman, it's Lamont. We are back with another podcast episode. And man, today we just got another epic series for you. This is something kind of new to the channel, what we're bringing with the multitude of interviews that we have coming in. I think we did a good job of bringing two very unique interviews that cover both sides of the spectrum, and I'll go into detail a little later about what we mean by that. But before we get started, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the video if you haven't done so already. We're grinding to 100K subscribers. That's the goal. We got to get there. We're going to get that YouTube plaque on the wall. Again, the only way we get there is you guys continue to actively engage in the videos. Smash the like button on everything that you like. I mean, smash the dislike button if you have to. All right. But either way, actively engage in the videos. Comment. Let us know what you guys want to see. All right. And we'll continue to drop that heat. The one change that we're making is over the next couple of weeks, we are going to be going live on Facebook. So if you're not following us on Facebook, then you need to do so now, because when our next few live streams are gonna be on Facebook. The link to our Facebook page is gonna be in the description of the video. Make sure you follow us there. And we'll still be putting out those teasers and notifications when we go live on YouTube, on social media, but make sure you're following us on Facebook so we can continue our live streams there. But Today we're going to be talking about the NCAA basketball and the NCAA and these new transfer rules that just came out. All right. Now, it's said by many that these NCAA transfer rules are going to change the landscape of college basketball. All right. One college coach said the NCAA's transfer resolution is here and its impact will be felt far and wide. To elaborate on that, the D1 Council has approved a one-time transfer for all college athletes without the need to sit out. And everybody is saying that this potential move is game-changing. And many think that this is something that's here to stay. A lot of people do not believe this is just going to be a one-year thing. But there are going to be repercussions to this. It is a game-changing move with a lot of consequences that come with it, pros and cons. So again, what we're going to be doing to really break down this particular topic is we're bringing in a coach, and we're also going to be talking to a player. Not just any player, but we're talking about a player who played in this year's NCAA tournament, who's also made the decision to transfer, so we can hear directly from a player why he's taking advantage of these new rules, where he may be potentially land and go to school, and what are his aspirations. And then I want to hear from a coach who's coached at that level, a coach who's coached not only at the top level, but also at the JUCO level, at the D2 level. Right, so he's seen kids transfer up to higher programs, or he's seen kids transfer down to lesser programs for whatever reason. So we want those two perspectives. So again, appreciate everybody for joining this interview. This interview was pre-recorded. The first interview, we're going to be talking to head coach Matt Gordon. He's a popular coach here on the West Coast. He's coached at UCLA. He's coached all over the West Coast, most recently at Phoenix College. But he's going to be giving us an inside look at what coaches kind of have to really analyze and deal with from that perspective How do these transfers affect the team? How do coaches react? Are these coaches bitter? Are these coaches are in accordance with the rule? Because some coaches actually benefit from these transfer rules. We saw 2 teams in the Final Four that were loaded with transfer players when you're talking about Baylor and Gonzaga. So there are some coaches that benefit. There are other teams that take a hit. We're going to be talking first to Coach Matt Gordon about how these NCAA transfer rules are going to affect college basketball from a coach's perspective. Let's go ahead and get to that interview right now.
Okay, put these hoes in the car.
All right, this is FYF Sports, man. It's Lamont. We are here with Coach Matt Gordon, most recently known for coaching Phoenix University. Is that correct? Or Phoenix College here in Phoenix, Arizona. College. Okay, So we brought him in today, and as you guys just recently heard me speaking about, we talked about this in the live streams. We've talked about it on past videos. We even talked about it in our March Madness video. So you guys are pretty familiar with the topic. It's about NCAA transfers and the transfer portal. We really thought this was a discussion because over the last 4 to 5 years, the transfer portal has grown. In 2019, 900 players entered their names into the transfer portal. 2020, it rose to 1,000, and then now in 2021, it currently sits at 1,293 players in the transfer portal. And even players that I know Coach Gordon may know, we see these players enter the transfer portal. And the one thing that we're looking from the outside in. Obviously, we don't know what's going on internally with some of these programs, and so now that we have Coach Gordon here to kind of speak on this, a guy who's been inside some of these locker rooms, he's talked to some of these players who made the decision to transfer. We can get an inside look at the process of transferring and what might be going through some of these players' head, and how has college basketball just kind of changed in general. So, Coach Gordon, how you doing? And just really quickly, just give us your thoughts on how the NCAA transfer portal has changed over the last 5 years, whether it's to the good or to the negative.
Thanks for having me back. Love being on your show. Just brief history. When I started coaching back Division I in early 2000s, transferring was like a real unique thing. Like there might have been 20 or 30 transfers all year. And because you had to sit out, and it usually was because the coach and player dynamic didn't work out, and it was a real bad situation, and people ended up transferring for that reason, or maybe they just got homesick, wanted to move closer to home. But then fast forward about 10 years, the NCAA started making exceptions for transfers so they didn't have to sit out. And when they started that process, the portal went fast forward. So there was more transfers because I knew there was a good chance if they could just make up a reason why they had to transfer, family, sickness, whatever, and the NCAA rubber stamped it, they could transfer without sitting out a year. So that makes it more reasonable to to transfer and switch schools. 5 years ago, speed it up, people in the AAU world, which I think is a large reason for this, were transferring teams, mid AAU tournament or after a tournament, every other week because they weren't happy with playing time, or they wanted just a change. Who knows? Maybe the team, they got offered by a better team on a better circuit, so they moved AAU teams. Well, those players now are playing in college, and the NCAA, the NCAA made it way easy for them to transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Which, because they get waivers like crazy, like everybody was basically getting a waiver, and if they didn't, you sat out a year and you continue. Then you had the grad transfer on top of that, which added a ton of transfers because kids go to summer school and going to summer school before your freshman year, after your freshman year, after your sophomore, and after junior, you already have another full year of college under your belt. So you're going to graduate after 3 years. So that leaves your grad transfer year, your 4th year, to play.
Mm-hmm.
So, or if you redshirted, you got hurt, something like that, you'd be able to graduate and still have another year of eligibility because of this grad transfer rule. Anybody can find a grad major, which isn't the rules that your school didn't have. So they're not really going for school, most likely. They're going for basketball. So that gave people at a lower level the opportunity to play at a higher level to showcase their skills. Or vice versa. You graduate, maybe you didn't play a lot at a high major school. You could go to a lower major school as a grad transfer and play and put numbers up to further your career as a pro. That's what's led to this thing. So you have a culture shift in the AAU world. People just leave at the first sign of adversity, or a better situation. Not so much adversity, but maybe it's a better AAU team. So you get those things, and then you get the new NCAA rules. Now when they say there's going to be no sitting out for anybody this year, you have an explosion. And on top of that, nobody got a year taken away this year because of COVID. So everybody has a redshirt year. If you graduate, you become a grad transfer with a year of eligibility left. So this whole thing has just been like a tsunami, a vortex of a lot of circumstances coming into one. Hence, we have 1,300 transfers, and now Division I guys aren't even recruiting high school kids. They're recruiting portal kids, and I would too, because they're the old adage is get old and stay old. So You'd rather have a kid that has a year of experience in college somewhere than a high school kid who's going to be brand new to the experience. So unless you're a top 100 high school, 100, 150 kid, you're probably going to be better off going to a lower level, NAIA D2, use that, or junior college, and use that as like your springboard year. Do well there, and then put yourself in the portal, and then get recruited to a higher level. That's the trend. See how long that kind of stays.
So my question is, because I'm sure at Phoenix College you were probably on the receiving end of transfers, and then you were also on the other end of the transfers where guys, obviously if you're at a lower level college, you're going to be on the other end of the transfers. Guys are always trying to move up and get to better situations. And you've probably spoken with high major coaches who receive transfers. Do you think that, what are these coaches telling these kids? And like, is there a fine line that these coaches can cross? Like, how do these kids even know that there are other opportunities out there? With all of the ways that the NCAA limits recruiting and recruiting hours for coaches, how are these coaches in the know with these players? How can they promise these players certain things before they even enter the portal?
Well, there's a lot of misleading going on in the recruiting process. In the last couple of years, limits on recruiting days, you don't really know the kid, and then and the kids are getting told something completely different than what actually happened. I was in a meeting the other day with a group of coaches, and one of the questions was, how do you unrecruit a kid? Which basically means you lie to them to get them to school, and then when they get there, how do you reprogram them to actually do what you want them to do, whether it's coaching them hard, whether it's giving them a different role than you told them? Well, that leads to issues. And that leads to transfers, because kids aren't being told. They're being told one thing, and then when reality sets in 6 months later at the school, it's a different thing, and it's become a transactional relationship. I think that's a big thing, and that's a big word. Recruiting's become transactional, which means it's easy to leave and it's easy to get rid of because it's just a transaction. If you're actually recruiting a kid in a transformational relationship where you really get to know the kid and really get to know the family and the parents, then it's hard for those kids to transfer, and it's hard for you to get rid of them because you're really trying to help them, and vice versa. And you'll see the best programs with the best cultures don't really lose a lot of kids because their coaches have a great relationship with one of them. I think I just saw today there's only 3 Power 5 conferences or Power 5 schools that don't have any kids transferring right now. It's UCLA, Michigan, and I forget the third, but there was 3 Power 5 schools that currently do not have at least one transfer. And that just shows you that those coaches most likely have a great relationship with those kids off the floor and have their best interest at heart. And they went far. Like those teams have had good success, and there's a reason why. And you have to re-recruit your own kids every day, basically. And if you're not, they're going to leave.
Yeah, no, that's a good point right there. I was reading some statements from Coach Matt Painter from Purdue University. I know last year he lost 2, a junior going into his senior year, and he lost a senior going into his grad year. So he lost Matt Harms, who was his starting center, and he lost Nogel Easton. They both transferred out just very surprisingly. No one saw it coming. And sometimes with these transfers, you can kind of see it coming. You can read a kid's body language. You can kind of predict it in the wind. But with these 2 players, 2 starters, played a lot of usage on the team, and they both transferred out. And he has kind of some harsh words for both of them because they both could be pros. I'm not sure if they both could be NBA pros, but they definitely could be pros overseas. And on their way out, he just left some critical thoughts, basically saying transfers don't get drafted.
If you're putting your name in the draft to get attention, or you're just transferring to be transferring, and it's just like, I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings because I like the guys that have left my program. I like both of them, but transfers don't get drafted very much. It's a very, very small percentage. In the last 7 drafts, we've gotten 4 guys that have been drafted in the first round that have transferred. There's 19 guys total in the first and second round. And in 7 drafts, people have to understand that's 420 picks. You know, it's 19 guys out of 420 that have transferred. So it's a low percentage, but what I look at more than anything is, you know, embrace problems and embrace adversity and fight it. And, you know, don't run from it. And when you run from it and your work ethic isn't at a high level like a Carson Edwards or a Caleb Swanigan, because they have shortcomings at that level. They're great college players, but at that level, they have shortcomings. So that's the one thing that's not going to change. Everybody can have these dreams. We all have dreams. But things have to be realistic. And like you said, like if you got a distraction already and you're making it hard, like you can go on the message boards and talk here for 4, 5, 6 months. But when we start this season, you got to play. You know, you got to go out and be productive. And if you weren't before, you're inconsistent. Boy, I don't know how that changes. Drafted.
What are your thoughts with regards to high major transfers and how it affects their ability to play professionally, whether it's the NBA, G League, overseas? Does this affect their careers long term? Do other coaches at the pro level kind of look down on it when they're looking at your resume?
No, I don't think so. I mean, but maybe. I mean, he has Tyler's opinion. I understand where he's coming from. He's mad. Those guys. I mean, Harms. I don't know where the other kid went, but Harms technically went down a level. He went from Purdue to BYU, which I understand. Mark Pope's a great post player coach. Maybe he thought that would help him. Maybe he thought he'd get more touches there. Who knows what his reasoning was? Doesn't really have an effect. The NBA's become 1-year contracts, 2-year contracts, and go to another team. So I don't really think that has any bearing in the NBA anymore. If you can play, you can play. Somebody's going to take advantage of you. And if they draft you, they hold your rights for 3 years, which in today's world is a long time. Not many guys are signing more than 3 or 4-year contracts, and you get a kid at a lower pay scale for 3 years locked in with an option of a 4th. Like the NBA guys, that has no issue. Pro guys, same thing. If you can play. And I think some guys are better to go down a level, put up better numbers. You have a better opportunity to showcase your skills and get tape and stats to help you play overseas. At that level, I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's a good thought right there. And I thought some of his sentiments when he said that were out of bitterness a little bit. And I know he lost some transfers this year, and it's just different how coaches handle these transfers. I know that Tom Izzo just lost a player this year, but he came out publicly and, as opposed to bashing the kid, he said he's going to help the kid find a better situation. And so you see how coaches handle it differently when they lose players. I think they understand the territory. A lot of these kids coming into at least high major schools they all feel like they can play in the NBA, even if they can't. But and I think that plays into it as well. But My last question would be, what is the future? What do you think the future of the NCAA is? Do you think with the rule changes that they've made for the short term right now, affecting transfers, you think this is something they're going to stick with long term? Because they are discussing changes to the transfer portal. Do you think this is something they're going to stick with long term? Do you think it's good for college basketball, or is it hurting the game?
I think it's hurting the game pretty good. I don't think the NCAA they're going to change it so kids can transfer without sitting out, which is just going to keep this process going. Low major Division II schools are going to become minor league systems for the Power Five if they so choose. So that's just going to be reality for a while. The low majors are basically going to develop kids, understand it, and develop them. If they're good, there's a good chance they're leaving. That's why it's really important that the coaches adjust in terms of developing great relationships with these players, so maybe they don't leave. But it also gives people that get over recruited to Power 5 schools the opportunity to go to the right level and be successful there. So maybe it's a good thing, a bad thing. I think it hurts more schools. Everybody just talks in terms of Power 5 because that's what's on TV. But the schools that get hurt the most are the other 250 schools, Division I schools or Division II schools, which are developing players for them to leave. And that's going to be a huge paradigm shift in college basketball. It already has become that.
Do you think that over the last 3 years, the issue with transfers and players leaving, you think that is what affected teams like Duke and Kentucky? You know, they had a complete drop off. Now I know Duke at least had a top 5 recruiting class, but I don't know what they had outside of that to complete that roster.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference between, like, if some of these teams are getting older and staying older in college, they might not have the pros or the NBA guys, the talent, but they're going to have better teams than Duke and Kentucky because they're going to have young kids who are just figuring it out, whereas these other teams are going to have older 4 or 5 year kids that have already developed, and if they stay with their program, they're going to be better. So there's going to be more. That's why it's better for a lot of these teams to take kids that have been in college already as opposed to getting one and dones. The teams that have a lot of one and dones are done being elite anymore. They're going to have elite players, but they're going to be done for the most part being elite teams.
Yeah, I've seen that. I see these teams with these one and done players. We've seen LSU try it. I think USC is going through it right now with Evan Mobley. I don't know, again, with the one and dones, college is about building up players and sustaining for multiple years. And it's tough.
USC is actually a great example. They have one and done in Evan Mobley. And then they had 1 or 2 guys back from last year's team. And then they had 7 guys transfer in from lower levels. Rice, Utah Valley, Santa Clara, I forget the others, but those guys all came in and they made the Elite Eight. They had the best year ever for the tournament because they had all transfers and they had a good mix. Duke had 0 transfers. They had one and done. They had some older guys, not very good. They struggled. Kentucky, same thing. They missed on their one and done high school kids. Not great, not very good. You look at Baylor, won the national title. I think 80% of the rosters are transfers from lower levels that came up to Baylor. So, you know, there's a formula there for the future.
Yeah, Baylor definitely surprised everybody. And I think even Gonzaga is an example of a school that is really good at bringing in transfers as well. I mean, one of the best. Yeah.
They led the charge. They've been doing transfers for years.
Oh, yeah.
The Kyle Wilchers of the world. And who else? There's Brandon Clark, name a couple. But when I was coaching the league a long time ago, they were bringing in transfers, sitting them out, getting them bigger, stronger. And they're great at skill development and player development. Therefore, that's an elite place if you had to sit out to transfer. They led the Nigel Williams-Goss, just another example. But that paved the way for what's happening now.
It's so crazy because, again, especially with the transfers, and when those schools are the examples of at least the positive side of what transferring can do, because we see players not just go to those schools, but then we see them get much better and have much more success on a team level. So, again, you guys, I know we got to wrap it up here, but you guys take from that what you may. I mean, obviously with the transfer market as it is right now, there are a lot of pros and cons that come with it. You just kind of have to decide how you feel about it and then just go with the facts. That's what we do here at FYF Sports. We kind of put our feelings to the side. We try to evaluate, especially this topic from both ends of the spectrum. And that's why we appreciate Coach Matt Gordon just kind of coming in today, giving us an inside look at what, coaches kind of have to deal with, when they have to deal with whether it's bringing in incoming players or watching players leave your program to go to other schools. So, hey, Coach Gordon, do you have anything else on the way out? Maybe tell people about the mentorship program that you have going on, because I really think there's a lot of coaches who are subscribed to us on lower levels. Let them know a little bit about that mentorship program that you have going on.
Yeah, we have a program through Rising Coaches, and it's a consulting program for younger level coaches to get advice from experienced guys that have been in the business, whatever level. We have MBA, retired MBA coaches, current college head coaches, women's coaches, current head coaches in the women's game. We have a former high school coach who also coached in the G League and in Division I. So he's a great mentor for people that are trying to get from high school to college or the NBA, just to go through experiences that, you can learn a lot of things through others' experiences and pitfalls. And we have people that can help if you're ever interested. The website's risingcoachesconsulting.com. There's a free consult to get more information about the program. We'd love to speak with you, and just trying to help coaches get better.
All right, cool. Hey, that link is going to be in the description of this video. So again, if you're a coach, man, you want to get better, you want to be able to consult with coaches who are doing what you do, at least at your level or at a higher level, or maybe you want to get to another level, this would be the perfect program for you. That link will be in the description of the video. But again, we appreciate Coach Matt Gordon for once again giving us his time on the podcast. Appreciate everybody watching. And again, we're going to be coming with more and more interviews throughout this month, especially. We got a lot of NCAA to talk, especially once we start to see where these players land and how the landscape is going to start to look next year. So again, check out our live streams. We try to go live every day at about 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So make sure you come check us out here at FYF Sports if you haven't done so already. Hey, but it's been a great episode. Make sure you guys also, and I keep saying this. Make sure you follow us, NBA GOAT Talk on Facebook. All right, we have a lot of live streams there as well, a lot of NBA conversations as well. And again, it's just a different group, a different atmosphere. So make sure you're joining us there. Hey, but it's FYF Sports. It's been another great episode. Salute to Coach Matt Gordon, and we are out.
In my soul when I needed it. After the cold nights of grinding, now I need to vent. Calling the law cause I'm killing forever heaven sent. My brother told me that my calling is a mic and kicks. I do it all like the last chance of finding love. I ain't no simp, just a nigga that believe in love. Can guarantee that the moment that I get a chance, want to succeed, so as a man I gotta take a stance. Though they don't see it, but they steady trying to stop the vision. I'm seeing squares from every angle like a damn prism. Could never fail cause my family's searching for a blessing. Teaching my seed, don't let them crush you like an intersection. Born in the 80s where they took it and they stood tall. I need a minute like the last second on calling cars. Oh, you rich niggas steady talking politics. Oh, it goes several seats, nigga, you need to take a sit. Cause you ain't never felt the struggle, now you seen the pain. Cause when they cut his man, they steady go against the grain. I pray that all my homies make